Hey YouTube. So today we're going to be talking about an exciting topic covering the costs of dental school. So I have put together a list of all of the costs that go into applying to dental school, from the DAT to the application fees to secondary applications and deposits. And there are a couple programs that can help you pay for these. So I'll mention a couple of them. They include the DAT Fee Waiver and the Fee Assistance Program for the actual application on applying to the dental schools. So I'm going to go through the DAT. I had to take a break there because I realized all of my information was on the phone that I'm recording on, and the iPad is what I'm using to refer to, so I had to do that. But when going over the DAT portion, there are a couple different types of programs that people use to study for the DAT. The first one, the most common one that I hear that people use to study for the DAT is DAT Bootcamp, and that's the one that I used. Now, talking about whether or not Bootcamp or Booster or Destroyer or whatever, like the best program to take the DAT is, I feel like it's going to be different for everybody. So when I took the DAT, I took it in August of 2020, and I used DAT Bootcamp because Booster wasn't out when they and all the rest of the programs were just not known to be very great, like Kaplan and stuff like that. But I mean, I got decent scores when it came to boot camp. There were definitely some sections in boot camp that were not as helpful, and the DAT was actually harder, or covered sections that were not, like my actual DAT did not cover some things that were on boot camp. So like the biology section was kind of different from the Feralis notes that were there, and yeah, I had questions on the DAT about organs and stuff that I had not covered before. I hadn't taken anatomy previous to taking the DAT. I took it now. I just took it this past fall, but I hadn't taken it previous to actually taking the DAT. But when it comes to boot camp, there are a couple. I'm looking at my screen here, but boot camp has a couple different types of packages to offer. So Bootcamp Pro is $495, and they give you 90-day access to bootcamp. And as Bootcamp Plus will give you 180 days, and then more full-length practice tests, and that's $897 as of the time that I screenshotted it. But I think Bootcamp is a decent resource. I know that you can pay, after you pay the initial cost of Bootcamp, you can get, I think, 30 days or 60 days at a time, and you can pay per month. And I think for me it was a lot less than what it is now. I don't say a lot less, but I also bought mine on Black Friday, and then I just paused my subscription and then started it again when I was actually studying for the DAT. But I did take a lot longer. It took like 6 months in total to study. The first 3 months though, I was working full-time, and I kind of studied casually. I used the Cliff Notes. I bought like the Cliff Notes book, and I used that. I don't have it with me anymore because I gave it to somebody who was studying for the DAT, but I used the Cliff Notes and I studied that, and then I also studied Bootcamp's OChem section first, because that was the worst. That was my worst subject, so I wanted to get started on that first. So I just did those two kind of casually around working full-time, and then the pandemic happened, so I was working from home, or not working technically, and I had a lot more free time. So the last 3 months right before my test, I was just studying full-time. So I feel like the DAT, I should dedicate a different video all towards studying and taking the DAT. So this is just going to talk about the costs, and maybe I'll film a different video on how I studied and stuff like that. But so when it comes to boot camp, those are the two prices that you have for that. And then back when I was taking the DAT, they only had PAT Booster. They didn't have the whole full DAT Booster, but I did pay for PAT Booster. I found it very helpful. I don't know if I would be able to compare PAT Booster to boot camps as well, because I only used DAT Booster, PAT Booster, and I didn't use boot camp's PAT portion, only just because I found it, to me it was just a lot more helpful. Like I understood the videos a lot better, but I think it just depends on the person and how they study too. So DAT Booster right now has $299, so $300 for, I'm not sure how long you get access for, but I'll also post all of the information, screenshots from each webpage here. But yeah, so DAT Booster I think is effective if you have already tried bootcamp and you didn't like it. I would definitely give DAT Booster a shot, because I really liked PAT Booster, but I don't have anything to compare it to as well. And I think I have never really gotten access to all of DAT Booster, so I can't really say much about that. And then another common resource that people use is the DAT Destroyer books. There are a ton of Destroyer books that go from the biology sections to the QR sections to Gen Chem to OChem to math and all of that. I was given the DAT Booster math portion, and I didn't, or actually I think I was given a couple different DAT books, or DAT Destroyer books, but they were from 2013. And when they say DAT Destroyer, like, they had way too much information, I think, compared to the actual DAT. But like, if you are looking to destroy the DAT, it would definitely be a resource to like over prepare. But honestly, the amount of information that you have to know for the DAT can kind of be daunting. So, you know, if you want to use the booster for a specific section, I would say you can try, but it's very in-depth, and it will definitely prepare you for it. I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but it's just very detailed, and when it comes down to the actual DAT, I'm sure you would be learning way more information than you need to know for the actual DAT, but it's there as a resource in case that's something that you're interested in. So they have a bunch of different books, so I'll probably post a video right here about the webpage and show you all the books, and they have packages and stuff like that. But when it comes down to the DAT Fee Waiver, so the DAT Fee Waiver is I'm just going to read the description verbatim. In documented cases of severe financial hardship, a limited number of partial fee waivers are available to DAT examinees each calendar year from January to December. The partial fee waiver covers 50% of the DAT fee. The partial fee waiver does not apply to any charges associated with rescheduling, canceling the test date, or score reporting after the time of initial application. And what I mean by this is when you apply for the DAT, it'll ask you where do you want to send the where you would like your DAT scores to be sent in. Just select all of them. It doesn't cost anything to select them now, but if you choose individual schools and need to get them sent to different schools later, then it will cost something. So just select all the schools, even if you don't plan on applying to all the schools. So it's free, why not do it? And then partial fee waivers are granted on a first come first served basis to eligible examinees who have submitted the required documents. So what makes you qualify or eligible for the DAT fee waiver is that you have not taken the DAT before, that you haven't previously received the waiver before, and that you're a U.S. citizen and or resident and has demonstrated financial hardship. You can do this by showing a couple different documents. I'm sure I'll leave all of the links below in the description to all of these resources and all of where I'm getting all of this information from. And I'll even link all of the DAT resources that people use, like Bootcamp and stuff. Also, I should link Chad's videos. I know that people have mentioned Chad's videos as well, but I'll leave all of the resources there. In case I forget anything, they'll all be down in the description, and I'll update it as necessary. So just if there isn't anything mentioned in this video, just check below and see if I left anything in the description box about whatever you're wondering about. But also, if not, just leave a comment and hopefully I can respond to you in a reasonable time. But then demonstrated financial hardship. So with that, you can send in, what I did was I sent in that I received financial aid previously. So you can just send your financial aid letter to them, and that's proof enough. But I know they have a couple other things. I think you might be able to send in your taxes and stuff, but I'm not sure. So that's a different story. And then you've received financial aid from their school. So like I received financial aid from my school, and that was proof of financial hardship. But I have a couple things on I have screenshots of when what the approval looks like what you'll receive when you actually get approved, like information that they sent me after I emailed the document in. So with the DAT Fee Waiver, you need to download a document and then fill it out and send it to the email. The ADSAS, I think it's ADSAS, no, hold on. The DAT exam at ada.org, so you need to actually fill out the document form and then email it into them. And then I'll show you what it looks like. So once you send it in, this is what you will see as an email in response, and then this is what it'll look like when you are approved. Yeah, so also this is the timeline on when I applied. So I applied on January 6th, 2020, and then I received the approval on February 5th, 2020. But I didn't take my exam until the end of August. You have, I think, you have a certain amount of time. Yeah, it says your waiver will expire June 30th. So like when I received it, it expired June 30th. So I had to submit my DAT application. Like I didn't need to take it on June 30th, but I needed to have signed up and paid for and had a date for the DAT by June 30th, which I did fairly soon after I received the application, the fee waiver. Okay, so the DAT in and of itself, let's see if I have a screenshot. So I see this thing, I took a screenshot of this. So the DAT itself costs around $500. So this waives half that fee, so you pay around $250, I believe. I'm not sure if this has gone up or down since I've taken it, but this is from the information that I could find. So I'll, of course, put the picture here of where I got that information from, but either way, it covers 50% regardless of what it cost. But it's around, if you're trying to budget for applying to dental school or taking the DAT, it's around $500 for the DAT. With the fee waiver, it's around $250. They may have gone a little up since I last looked, but that's what I could find. That's the information I could find. So definitely double check on these amounts, but I think it still should be around that amount. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then when it comes to the application itself, so when you are applying to dental school, you have to pay the cost. So the first school that you apply to will cost more than the schools that you add on after. So if you apply to one school, it's going to cost, let me find the amounts. Okay, so the first school that you apply to is $251, and then each additional school that you apply to after that is going to be $108 per school that you add on. So it's expensive. Like, it's expensive, especially when people are applying to like 15 to 20 schools, 10 schools. Like, that's kind of one of the reasons why I only applied to 6. I'll make a separate video about that because I keep getting questions about that. About why I applied to only 6 schools and what I liked about Maryland and why I chose Maryland. Yeah, I'll make a video about that separately. When it comes to, so that's the application fees. So you can apply for a fee waiver. It's called the Fee Assistance Program. So if you're looking for it, I think you can look up Dental School Application Fee Assistance Waiver, or sorry, Fee Assistance Program, so FAP. And that, let me see if I have the information about that one. So the Fee Assistance Waiver covers the application for your first 3 programs. So that includes your first school, which costs more than the rest of your schools, and then the next 2. So you have 3 schools total that it will cover, and then everything after that, it's just out of pocket. So, but it does cover the first 3 programs that you apply to. Let me see if I have any information about that one. So with the Fee Assistance Waiver, there's a website that I'll link below, and it will have all the information on how to apply. So there's another form that you have to fill out and then submit it as well. And then make sure you have your DENT PIN and everything for that, so you can apply. Yeah. So it looks like. So the requirements for the FAP is that you meet, I think you have to meet the minimum poverty line. So they have like a cutoff for how many people are in your household and how much income that they have. And so I think you need to submit your taxes for that. But I'll link in the description below that has more information about that. But I applied in March, April. I applied in April 17th, and I got it before I needed it in June to apply. And I'll show you some screenshots on what it looks like when you submit. It'll give you a confirmation email on when you submit it. And this is the email, another thing that you get when you submitted your application, like they received your application. And then this is the email that you get when you actually get the fee waiver. Another thing that it mentions here too is that when you get the fee waiver, you need to, when you are on AdSAS, in my previous video I kind of mentioned this, but when you are on AdSAS and you select the schools that you want to apply for, you need to hit the submit all button. You can't individually submit your application to like individual schools, because it'll give you the option on AdSAS, but if you do that, then you forfeit the rest of your waiver. So if you try to individually apply to schools, then it'll only cover your first school and not your second or third. I made this mistake, so don't do that. Just select, if you're only applying to 3 schools, or maybe you're applying to more than 3 schools, be prepared to check out all at once, or just fill out the information for 3 schools, submit it, and then it'll get all three of those schools covered, and then go back and then fill out the information for the other schools that you're applying to, if you want time to like pay. But yeah, I would be careful about that. They'll send you an email, read it thoroughly, and it'll just automatically apply. You don't need to do anything. Like, it should show up on your AdSense account. yeah, that's my experience with it. I kind of messed up there because I wasn't really explained on how to submit this the schools. I thought you had to submit them all individually. I didn't realize that there was a submit all button. So yeah, kind of messed that up. But okay, let's see what's next. Secondaries. So secondaries, they're on the actual ADSAS application. Sometimes you'll be able to pay for secondaries directly on the ADSAS application. So they'll have a link. You go to the individual websites of the schools, pay for them, and then submit a receipt. Some schools will send you secondaries after you submit your application, and then you have to go to their website, pay the secondary fees, and then submit your receipt. But each school is kind of different about the way that their secondaries work. Some just kind of integrate their secondaries into ADSAS, so you're just paying for it when you do ADSAS, and then some will ask for it after you submit if they are interested in you and send you a secondary. So some just kind of like broadly send secondaries, and so you're just required to pay for secondary applications, and that doesn't mean that they're interested in you necessarily. So just look at the individual schools when it comes to that. With Maryland specifically, after I submitted my application, they sent me an email that, they sent me an email about submitting a secondary application. I submitted the secondary application, and then I paid the secondary fee, and then after that, they hopefully send you an interview invitation. The schools are very different. So some will send you a secondary after, some embed secondary information into ADSAS. Some will just send you an interview, like they don't do secondaries at all. And then I've heard that there are some schools that just don't interview at all, and they either accept you or they don't. So yeah, schools are very different. So it just depends on the schools that you're applying to. So definitely look at the requirements for your school. And then seat deposits. So this will be the last thing that I mention in this video is about seat deposits. So seat deposits are once you submit your application, you do secondaries or not, depending on the school, then you do your interview. If they are interested in you by December 1st, which is decision day, December 1st was the date for last year for in 2021 to hear back for this cycle. Before that, it was actually December 15th. They pushed it because of COVID, so I'm not sure if it changes every year. I know that COVID was a weird time, and I thought that it would affect this year's application cycle, but it didn't. Anyway, on decision day, they'll give you, you'll either hear back about an acceptance or not. And if you don't hear back from an acceptance, don't worry about it. They still accept into the spring. They also still interview until the spring. So if you haven't heard back yet, it's not the end of the world. Like, you still might be waitlisted, you still might be, could hear back. I hear a ton of stories about people who don't hear about their acceptances or waitlist or anything until the spring. So just wait till the full application cycle is over before you really start jumping to conclusions. Anyway, but once you get an acceptance, some schools have seat deposits, and the seat deposits can range anywhere between $500 to $2,000, and it just depends on the school. So since I only have experience with Maryland, I can only speak for Maryland, but Maryland had 2 seat deposits. In December, we had to pay $1,000 seat deposit, and I think that was due by the end of December. We had around 31 days to submit our first seat deposit. And then we have a second seat deposit, which we got an email in January, like this month, about the second seat deposit, which is another $1,000. That's that if you look at their website, it says it's due in April. So they had some weird thing about it being due this month and then changing the dates, and that was kind of complicated, but if you're applying next year, it should be due in April. So you have 2 seat deposits, each $1,000, so total $2,000. And then you have moving fees, because like for me, I have to move there. I'm in California, so I have to move there. So overall, applying to dental school is expensive. And I don't think anyone going into applying to dental school thinks that it's going to be cheap, because even dental school in and of itself is very expensive. I'll talk to you about that when I get through financial aid information and taking out loans and stuff like that, and maybe budgeting, and maybe I'll make another video about that. But those are the costs of applying to dental school. And if I left anything out, or if there's any information that I said that might be out of date, please leave a comment below to correct me, and I'll update the description box below. All right. Thanks everybody for joining me for this video. If you have any more video ideas, I will definitely make them. I plan on making a video about personal statements and reading my personal statement out, and giving kind of general comments of what I've heard. So if you want to look forward to that, look for my next video. Anyway, thanks guys. Bye.